The champagne bottle exploded against the marble wall, missing Delilah's head by inches. "You're nothing," Cade screamed, his perfectly styled hair wild as he grabbed her wrist, twisting until she cried out. "You hear me?" Nothing. Blood dripped from her lip where his ring had caught her. The basement door yawned open behind them. That cold, damp hole where he'd locked her 17 times before. She'd counted, every single time. But tonight was different. Tonight, she ran. Rain hammered the streets of Beverly Hills as Delilah stumbled barefoot across Rodeo Drive, her designer dress torn at the shoulder. Behind her, Cade's voice echoed between buildings. "Come back here, you worthless piece of trash!" Under the overpass near Wilshire Boulevard, she collapsed beside a man in rags clutching a battered leather case. He looked up with eyes that had seen everything. "Family?" he asked quietly. She nodded,
Family?
trembling. Yeah, he said, almost smiling. They're usually the ones who hurt us worst. What she didn't know, this homeless man had $3 billion hidden in offshore accounts. And her husband? He'd helped steal it. Hey, before we dive into this insane story, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you're ready for the wildest revenge you've ever heard. Trust me, you won't regret it. Now, let's get into it. 3 hours earlier, Delilah had been arranging roses in the penthouse kitchen. That's when Cade walked in. "Did you touch my jacket?" His voice was ice. She froze. "The black one? It had coffee on the sleeve. The slap came before she could finish. "That's my stage jacket." He grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. "Do you know what tonight is? Do you have any idea how important?" "Cade, please. Please." He laughed, cruel and sharp. "You gave up everything to be with me, remember? Your pathetic little paintings? And this is how you repay me." He dragged her across the living room. She clawed at his hands, but he was stronger, always stronger. The basement door creaked open. "No, Cade, not again." He shoved her inside. The darkness swallowed her whole. "Think about what you did," he said to the door. "I've got rehearsal. When I get back, you better have an apology ready." The lock clicked. Delilah sat in the dark among his old guitars and forgotten equipment, her body shaking. But something was different this time. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at her, like she was less than human. Maybe it was a growing bruise on her cheek that makeup couldn't hide anymore. Maybe she was just tired of being scared. When she heard his car leave, she found the spare key he'd forgotten about, the one hidden behind the old amplifier. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the door from the inside. She grabbed nothing. No phone, no wallet, just ran. The rain started as she hit the street, cold and punishing. She ran until her feet bled, until her lungs burned, until she couldn't hear his voice anymore. That's when she found the overpass. And him. The man in the filthy coat looked about 60, maybe older. Hard to tell under all that grime. He sat against the concrete wall, that leather case clutched to his chest like it held his entire life. "You running from something?" he asked. Delilah wiped her eyes. "Someone. Husband." She nodded. The man sighed, digging into his pocket. He pulled out a crumpled $5 bill and held it toward her. "Here, get yourself somewhere warm." She stared at the money. This homeless man was offering her his last $5. "I can't," she whispered. "Sure you can. I've got more where that came from." He smiled, and for just a second, she saw something in his face. Something that didn't match the rags and dirt. Instead of taking the money, Delilah sat down beside him. "What's your name?" she asked. He hesitated. "Call me Thorn." "I'm Delilah." They sat in silence, watching the rain create rivers in the gutter. Finally, Thorn spoke. "You know what's funny about family?" he said. "We think they're supposed to protect us, but sometimes they're the ones who destroy us. Sounds like you know from experience." "Oh, I do." He patted the leather case. "Lost everything to people I trusted. My brother, my sister, my wife. They took my company, my money, my reputation. Left me with nothing but this." "What's in there?" Delilah asked. Thorn's eyes glittered. "Insurance." Before she could ask more, headlights swept across the overpass. A black Mercedes. Cade's car. That him. Thorn asked. Delilah's blood went cold. I have to go. No. Thorn grabbed her arm gently. You run now. You'll be running forever. Trust me. The car slowed. Cade's face appeared in the window, twisted with rage. But when he saw saw the homeless man beside his wife. Disgust crossed his features. Delilah, he shouted, get away from that filth. She stood, but Thorn stood too. She doesn't want to go with you, Thorn said quietly. Cade laughed. And what are you going to do about it? Oh man, you smell like a dumpster. Maybe, but I can still recognize trash when I see it. Thorn's voice was calm, almost pleasant. And you, son, you're the worst kind. Cade's face went purple. He stepped out of the car. That's when Thorn opened a leather case. Inside, stacked neatly, were rows of gold bars. Not many, maybe 5 or 6, but each one gleaming under the streetlights. Cade froze. What the... This is just what I keep for emergencies, Thorn said. The real money? That's somewhere your greedy little brain couldn't even imagine. He pulled out a small metal card, the kind you'd use to access a safe deposit box, and held it up. Offshore accounts, encrypted drives, proof of every dirty deal, every stolen dollar, every lie. Thorn smiled. I'd built an empire, and my family tried to bury me to get it. But here's the thing about playing dead. You get to see who celebrates your funeral. Cade was backing toward his car now, his earlier confidence gone. Who are you? He whispered. Nobody important. Just a beggar. Thorn's smile widened. But I used to be Thor Whitaker. Maybe you've heard of Whitaker Technologies? The color drained from Cade's face. Everyone knew Whitaker Technologies, the company that revolutionized cloud computing. The billionaire who'd supposedly killed himself after a financial scandal 3 years ago. You're dead, Cade said. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. Thorn closed the case. Now get out of here before I decide to make those reports accurate about someone else. Cade scrambled into his car and drove off, tires squealing. Delilah stared at Thorn. You're really him? Was him. Now I'm just a guy with a leather case and a lot of time to think. He looked at her. Your husband, what's his full name? Cade Brennan. He's a musician. He's supposed to perform at the Madison Square Arena next month. It's his big break. Thorn's expression darkened. Brennan, that name rings a bell. He pulled out a small notebook from his coat, surprisingly clean despite everything else. He flipped through pages covered in neat handwriting. Here, he said, pointing. Cade Brennan, signed to Meridian Records. And guess who runs Meridian Records? Who? My ex-wife's new boyfriend, a man named Preston Vale. Thorn's laugh was bitter. She moved on quick after she thought I was dead. I don't understand. Your husband is connected to the people who destroyed my life, Thorn said. And if I'm right about Preston, he's probably helping your husband hide assets. Rich men like him always do. They stick together. Delilah thought about the locked drawer in Cade's office, the whispered phone calls, the way he'd been pushing her to sign papers she wasn't allowed to read. He wants a divorce, she said suddenly. He keeps telling me to sign the settlement agreement. Says he'll make my life hell if I don't. Let me guess, the settlement gives you nothing? She nodded. Thorn stood, offering his hand. Then I have a proposal for you. Delilah, help me take back what's mine, and I'll help you destroy the man who's been destroying you. How? I'm going to reclaim my company. And when I do, I'm going to make sure everyone who betrayed me pays. That includes Preston Vale. He smiled. And if your husband is tied to Preston, well, collateral damage is just part of war. Delilah looked at the strange, filthy man with his leather case full of secrets. She thought about the basement, the bruises, the fear that had become her whole world. What do you need me to do? She asked. The next 6 weeks were the strangest of Delilah's life. She went back to Cade. Thorn insisted. We need you on the inside, he'd said. Be the wife he expects. Smile. Obey. Make him think he's won. It was harder than anything she'd ever done. But during the day, while Cade rehearsed, she met Thorn in places nobody would look. Grimy diners, public libraries, abandoned parking garages. He was different away from the overpass. Cleaner, sharper, He'd rented a tiny apartment in Brooklyn using cash from those gold bars, and slowly, carefully, he was rebuilding. First step, he explained one afternoon in the library, is accessing my offshore accounts. They're spread across the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore, about 3 billion total. 3 billion. Delilah whispered, and you've been living under a bridge? I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out who I could trust. He looked at her. Turns out, the answer was nobody from my old life. He showed her the encrypted drives. Tiny things that looked like regular USB sticks, but apparently held enough information to sink a dozen companies. This one, Thorne said, holding up a blue drive, has proof that my brother embezzled $40 million from our pension fund. This 1 inch, he held up a red drive, shows how my sister manipulated our stock price to trigger my supposed breakdown. And this 1 inch, he held up a black drive, has evidence that Preston Vale helped them all do it. Why? Because Preston wanted my ex-wife, and she wanted my money. Simple as that. Thorne's jaw clenched. They thought they were so clever. But I built redundancies into everything. Backup servers. Shadow accounts. I knew someone would try to betray me eventually. Just didn't think it would be everyone. Delilah understood betrayal. She was living it. At home. Kate was getting worse. The closer his big concert got, the more paranoid he became. He checked her phone constantly, tracked her locations, timed her grocery trips, and the basement visits increased. You're putting on weight, he'd say before locking her in. Or, you looked at that waiter too long. Or, you breathed wrong. The reasons didn't matter anymore. But Delilah had a secret now. While locked in that basement, she found Cade's old laptop, the one he thought was broken. She'd fixed it using tutorials from the library, and she'd started digging into his files. What she found made her sick. Emails to a woman named Catalina, Cade's manager. But the emails weren't just professional. They were planning, scheming. Once she signs a settlement, we can go public. Cade had written, I'll be the sympathetic divorce. You'll be the understanding new girlfriend. Preston says it'll humanize my image. What about the house? Catalina had replied, everything's in my name. She gets nothing. Preston's lawyers made sure of that. Delilah had cried reading those emails. But then she remembered Thorne's words. Information is power. She copied everything to a hidden folder. Screenshots, emails, text messages, even photos she found of Cade and Catalina together. Some of them very intimate. Then she told Thorne. Perfect, he'd said, his eyes gleaming. This is exactly what we need. Preston's involved in both our lives. That's the connection. That's how we bring them all down. How? Thorne smiled. The concert. Madison Square Arena. Cade's big moment. That's where we strike. 2 weeks before the concert, Thorne disappeared. Delilah panicked. She went to their usual meeting spots. The diner on 5th, the library in Queens, even back to the overpass where they first met. Nothing. For 3 days, she heard nothing. At home. Cade was unbearable, screaming at her about folded towels and dinner temperatures. She endured it. But without Thorne, without the plan, she felt her hopes slipping away. Then, on the 4th day, a black town car pulled up outside the penthouse while Cade was at rehearsal. The driver handed her a note. Get in. We have work to do. T. The car took her to a building in Manhattan. Sleek, modern, expensive. The kind of place Delilah had only seen in magazines. The elevator rose to the 42nd floor. The doors opened. Thorne stood there in a tailored suit, clean-shaven, his gray hair cut sharp and professional. He looked 20 years younger. He looked like power. What? How? Delilah couldn't find words. I told you, Thorne said, smiling. I had $3 billion. I just needed time to access it. He gestured to the office behind him, all glass and chrome, and stunning views of the city. Welcome to the new headquarters of Whitaker Technologies, reborn. You got your company back? Not yet, but I will. He led her inside. On a conference table sat stacks of legal documents. I've spent the last 72 hours in meetings with lawyers, bankers, and very nervous board members. Turns out, when a supposedly dead billionaire shows up with proof that half your executives committed fraud, people get cooperative fast. He pulled out one of the encrypted drives, the black one. Preston Vale thought he was untouchable. But I have records of every bribe, every illegal stock trade, every forged document. Thorne's smile was sharp. He's been using Meridian records to launder money through concert tours and recording contracts. Your husband? He's part of it. Delilah sat down hard. Cade's involved in money laundering? Probably doesn't even know it. He's just a talent. But Preston's been using him to move cash around, hiding it in tour budgets and equipment purchases. Thorne pulled out another document. And look at this.
What is
the Madison Square Arena concert? Cade didn't book it himself. Preston did, through a shell company that I now own. You own the shell company? As of yesterday. Thorne leaned back. I bought it from Preston's partners when I showed them evidence of his fraud. They couldn't distance themselves fast enough. He spread his hands. Which means, technically, I own Cade's concert. Delilah's mind raced. Can you cancel it? I can do better than that. Thorne's eyes glittered with something dark and satisfied. I can turn it into the biggest public humiliation of his life. But I need your help. Anything. I need you to make him feel safe, comfortable, arrogant. Thorne pulled out a small recording device. And I need you to get him talking about Catalina, about the divorce, about how he really feels about you. Can you do that? Delilah thought about the basement, the bruises, the fear. Yes, she said, I can do that. 1 week before the concert, Delilah made dinner, Cade's favorite, steak medium rare with roasted vegetables and that expensive wine he liked. She set the table perfectly, wore the dress he'd bought her, smiled when he walked in. What's all this? He asked suspiciously. I've been thinking.
And you're right.
Delilah said softly, the recording device hidden in her bracelet, about the settlement, about everything. And you're right. Cade's eyebrows rose. Right about what? I've been difficult, ungrateful. You gave me everything. She let her voice break. I just want to make you happy. So I'll sign the papers. Whatever you want. She watched his face transform. Suspicion melted into smugness. Well, he said, sitting down, it's about time you came to your senses. Over dinner, with wine loosening his tongue, Cade talked, and talked. You know, Catalina said you'd fight harder, he said, laughing. She thought you'd try to take half, as if you contributed anything worth half. He poured more wine. But Preston's lawyers are geniuses. Everything's protected. The house, the cars, my royalties, all mine. That's smart, Delilah said quietly. Catalina and I are going public right after the concert. Cade continued. Preston thinks it'll boost my image. The tortured artist finding love again after a difficult marriage. He looked at her. No offense, but you were holding me back. Catalina gets the business side. She's ambitious. Like me. How long have you been seeing her? 2 years. Cade said it casually like it meant nothing. Started right after we got married. Actually, you were just so boring. Delilah. All you wanted to do was paint and talk about feelings. He shuddered dramatically. Catalina understands success. Power. She's going to help me become the biggest name in music. What about when I wouldn't sign the papers? Delilah asked, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. What would you have done? Cade's smile turned cold. Preston said there are ways to make difficult wives disappear. Accidents happen all the time. The recording device caught every word. Later that night, after Cade passed out drunk, Delilah met Thorne at his new office. Got it, she said, handing over the device. Thorne listened to the recording, his expression darkening with each sentence. When it finished, he looked at her. He threatened to kill you. He did. Delilah, we need to go to the police. This is evidence of conspiracy, to commit murder. No. Delilah's voice was iron. Police means trials. Lawyers. Years of my life reliving this. I want something better. What? I want him destroyed. Publicly. Completely. The way he destroyed me. She met Thorne's eyes. Can you do that? Thorne was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Yes, he said. I can do that, but it's going to require you to be brave. Braver than you've ever been. Tell me what to do. The night before the concert, Thorne made his move. At a private board meeting at Whitaker Technologies, he presented the encrypted drives. His brother tried to run. His sister tried to lie. Neither got far. You stole from me, Thorne said calmly as security held him. You tried to kill my reputation, my legacy, everything I built. You thought I was weak, broken, dead. He leaned forward. But here's what you forgot. I'm the one who built this empire. I know every brick, every secret, every weakness. And now I'm taking it all back. By midnight, the board had voted. Thorne Whitaker was officially restored as CEO. His first action? Calling Preston Vale. Hello, Preston. Thorne said pleasantly into the phone. Remember me? The line went silent. I'm calling about Madison Square Arena. The concert tomorrow. I'm afraid there's been a scheduling conflict. What are you talking about? Preston's voice was tight. Cade's concert has been locked in for months. Through a shell company that I now own, which means the concert is mine to do with as I please. Thorne smiled. And what pleases me is watching you and your little money laundering scheme crumble. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I have 3 drives full of proof. Bank transfers, forged contracts, even some interesting emails between you and my ex-wife about how to handle my suicide. Thorne's voice went cold. You're finished, Preston. And so is Cade. Thorne, wait, we can make a deal. No deals. Not this time. He hung up. Then he called Delilah. Are you ready? He asked. Yes, she said. I'm ready. Concert day arrived. Madison Square Arena was packed. 15,000 screaming fans waiting to see Cade Brennan's breakthrough performance. Backstage, Cade was preening in his dressing room while Catalina fussed over his outfit. This is it, Cade said, admiring himself in the mirror. After tonight, I'm a star. You already are a star, baby, Catalina purred. This just makes it official. Delilah stood in the shadows, watching them. She wore a simple black dress, something Cade hadn't chosen for her, something she'd bought herself. She felt different, stronger. Mrs. Brennan? A security guard approached.
Delilah,
you're wanted on stage.
What? No, she's not part
Cade
of the show.
spun around.
Actually, I am.
What? No, she's not part of the show. Actually, Delilah said quietly, I am. Did anyone tell you? There's been a schedule change. Before Cade could respond, the lights in the dressing room flickered. The monitor that usually showed the stage feed suddenly switched to something else. A courtroom feed. What the hell? Cade started. On screen, a judge was reading charges. Preston Vale, you're hereby charged with embezzlement, fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Cade's face went white. That's Preston. That's my label president. What's happening? Justice, Delilah said simply. The monitor switched again, this time to a news broadcast. Breaking news tonight as billionaire Thor Whitaker, long believed dead, reveals himself alive and exposes a massive fraud conspiracy involving his own family and music industry executives. Cade staggered backward. Whitaker? The homeless guy? That was Thor Whitaker. Surprise, said a voice from the doorway. Thorne walked in, still in his suit, looking every inch the powerful executive he'd once been. Cade's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You can't. This is my concert. Actually, Thorne said pleasantly,
you can't.
It's my
This is
concert.
my concert.
I
Actually, it's
own the
my
arena.
concert. I own the
I
arena.
own the production company. I own everything. He smiled. And I've made some changes to tonight's program. You can't do this. I have a contract. A contract signed through Preston Vale's shell company, which, as you just saw, is currently being seized by federal authorities. Thorne pulled out a folder. You're also implicated in the money laundering, by the way. Not deeply. You were just a useful idiot, but enough that the IRS is very interested in talking to you. Cade lunged at Thorne, but security grabbed him. Let me go. Do you know who I am? You're nobody, Delilah said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. She stepped forward, and for the first time in years, she felt no fear. You're a small, cruel man who hurt me because it made you feel big, she said. You locked me in basements. You hit me. You threatened to kill me. You tried to steal everything from me. My confidence, my art, my life. She smiled. But you failed. Delilah, baby. Don't. Her voice cracked like a whip. Don't ever call me that again. You don't get to use soft words anymore. You don't get to pretend. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Cade's voice filled the room. Preston said there are ways to make difficult wives disappear. Accidents happen all the time. Catalina stepped back from Cade like he was poison. That's out of context, Cade stammered. There's more, Delilah said. She pulled out a tablet. For the past month, I've been documenting everything. Every bruise. Every threat. Every time you locked me in that basement. She swiped through photos, her own battered face, messages, medical records, and I've turned it all into something. She handed the tablet to Thorne, who smiled. Ladies and gentlemen, Thorne announced into a microphone connected to the arena's sound system. Tonight's concert has been canceled. Instead, I'm pleased to present a new art installation by Delilah Brennan, titled Echoes from the Basement. On the massive screens throughout the arena, Delilah's artwork appeared. They were sketches, raw, painful, beautiful. Images of locked doors and bruised hands. Faces twisted in fear. Shadows with monster shapes. Each one accompanied by a caption. Dates, times, quotes from Cade. You're worthless trash. March 15th, after I spill coffee. Nobody would believe you anyway. April 3rd, after I asked about divorce. This is what you deserve. May 22nd, for breathing too loudly. The arena went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then another. The applause built like thunder. Cade sank to his knees. You're ruining me. No, Delilah said. You ruined yourself. I'm just making sure everyone sees what you really are. She walked toward the stage, leaving Cade and Catalina behind. Thorne followed. As she stepped into the lights, 15,000 people rose to their feet. The applause was deafening. Delilah stood there, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time in years, she felt free. 3 months later, Delilah sat in her new studio, a bright, airy space in Brooklyn filled with canvases and paint and light. Her installation had gone viral. Within days, she'd been contacted by galleries, museums, domestic violence organizations. Her art was touring the country, telling her story, giving voice to thousands of others who'd suffered in silence. She divorced Cade, taken him for everything in the settlement, the house, the cars, half his future royalties. His lawyers had advised him to settle quietly rather than face criminal charges. Catalina had disappeared, last seen fleeing to Monaco. Preston Vale was in prison. And Thorne? He'd reclaimed his empire and then some. His triumphant return had made international news. His brother and sister were facing decades in jail. He knocked on Delilah's studio door one afternoon, carrying coffee. Thought you could use this, he said. She smiled, taking the cup. Thanks. How's the corporate world treating you? Like I never left. He looked around the studio. This is amazing, Delilah. Really. I couldn't have done it without you. Sure you could have. You just needed someone to remind you how strong you already were. He pulled out a folder. I wanted to give you this. Inside were stock certificates, shares in Whitaker Technologies. Thorne, I can't. You can, and you will. He smiled. You helped me get my life back. This is a thank you. Also, selfishly, I want you on my board of directors. You've got good instincts. Delilah laughed. I'm an artist, not a businesswoman. You're both. That's what makes you dangerous. He turned to leave, then paused. There's one more thing. I found something while going through Preston's files. He handed her a photograph. It showed a younger Cade, maybe 23, at some kind of party. Next to him stood Preston, Thorne's ex-wife, and Delilah squinted. Was that Thorne's brother? Cade knew them, she said slowly. Before we met. Before any of this. For years, apparently. Preston introduced you too, didn't he? Delilah thought back. The charity gala where she'd met Cade. Preston had been there, chatting with artists, playing matchmaker. You think I was set up? She asked. I think Preston saw a talented artist and thought she'd make good cover for his rising star. Someone grateful. controllable. Thorne's jaw clenched. He probably told Kate exactly how to manipulate you. Delilah stared at the photo for a long time. Then she carefully tore it in half. Doesn't matter now, she said. They're all gone. We won. Did we? Thorne asked quietly. I got my company back, but my family's in prison. You got your freedom, but you lost years to fear and pain. That's not really winning. No, Delilah agreed, but it's surviving. And sometimes that's enough. They stood together in the sunlit studio. Two people who've been broken by betrayal and rebuilt themselves stronger. Want to grab dinner? Thorne asked. As friends, I promise no revenge plots or corporate espionage. Delilah laughed. That sounds perfect. As they left, she paused at the door, looking back at her latest painting. It showed a basement door, but this time it was open, light streaming in, a figure walking out toward the sun. She titled it Resurrection. 6 months after the concert, Delilah received a letter. No return address. Just her name in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single page. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. It'll never be enough. But I want you to know that I see what I did now. The lawyers made me take classes, anger management, addiction recovery. I'm not making excuses. There aren't any excuses for what I did to you. You were right. I was small. Cool. I hurt you because I was broken. And that's the worst reason of all. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I hope you're happy. I hope you're painting. I hope you never think about me again. You were always stronger than me. I just couldn't see it. Cade. Delilah read the letter twice. Then she walked to her kitchen, held it over the sink, and lit it on fire. She watched it burn, watched the words curl and blacken and disappear. When it was nothing but ash, she washed it down the drain. Then she went back to her studio and painted. She painted freedom. She painted strength. She painted a woman who descended into darkness and clawed her way back to light. She painted herself. And she never looked back. The end. So what did you think? Did Delilah get the revenge she deserved? Would you have burned that letter or kept it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.